As many of you know, we had an incident at the airport today. And first of all, I want to say that our thoughts and prayers are with the flight crew and the passengers and our entire Southwest team. At approximately 11:15 today, Southwest Flight 1380 declared an alert. It had an emergency landing at Philadelphia International Airport at about 11:27. There were 143 passengers and 5 crew members on board at the time. Our operational teams are working with the Philadelphia police and fire teams to make sure that the incident is secured. We had a runway that was closed for about 2.5 hours, the runway where the incident took place. As of now, the airport is open for operations. And I'm going to turn this over to Commissioner Teal from the Fire Department and from the Office of Emergency Management, Dan Bradley, the director, who will tell you more and give you more details.
I'm Adam Teal, the Fire Commissioner for the City of Philadelphia. At 11:10 today, our aircraft rescue and firefighting units here at the airport, Engine 78, was dispatched to a reported engine fire in a 737. The units arrived on scene at 11:13, about 3 minutes later, and reported a small engine fire with a fuel leak in a 737 with reported 148 souls on board. At 11:34, Engine 78 requested an additional medic unit, and at 12:32 today, the incident was placed under control. In all, 9 fire apparatus and 17 personnel responded to this incident, as well as 2 paramedic units. We transported 1 patient in critical condition to a local hospital, and we will not be releasing anything about patient outcome at this time. We also assessed 12 other patients and treated 7 patients for minor injuries, although none of those were transported to the hospital. Our firefighters provided foam due to the risk of a fuel leak and applied that agent for some time. We still have 1 fire department vehicle on the scene supporting our partners with the airport, and I have to say thank you to the airport and the police department and all the other partners, including all the airlines here at PHL, who've really come together to help us deal with this tragic incident.
I'm Dan Bradley. I'm the Director of Emergency Management. At this time, we are working with Southwest Airlines to provide support to the passengers that have temporarily been here in Philadelphia. We are working with them closely to help them make their next connections and to continue to their final destination. We have been in contact with the National Transportation Safety Board. They are sending a jump team to Philadelphia, and we expect their arrival at approximately 6 p.m. today. One of the things that we always look to do in an incident such as this is provide a contact number for friends and family. We are waiting on that number, and we will provide it to you as soon as we can. At this time, we're available to take limited questions.
We're not going to release any information about the passenger's condition. Again, we had 1 passenger who was transported to a local hospital in critical condition.
Are there any other passengers injured?
There were 12 other passengers who were assessed and 7 passengers who were treated, 7 of those 12 for minor injuries, but none of those were transported.
Can you outline the passenger who suffered the heart attack and the passenger who was almost up to the runway?
We are not confirming anything about patient outcome at this time.
Maybe this question for the airlines. Would you consider this a catastrophic engine failure, a loss of cabin? How would you characterize this incident the way you know it now?
So the airline, as you might imagine, is in our emergency operations center dealing with a lot of the other things, including getting the passengers on other flights, working with our law enforcement partners. I can say that when our aircraft rescue and firefighting units of the Philadelphia Fire Department arrived, they found a fuel leak and a small fire in one of the engines on this 737 aircraft.
Was the whole of the aircraft breathing related to a bird strike at all?
It is much too early to tell. Again, as you heard, the NTSB will be on the ground here soon, And ultimately, it will be up to the NTSB to determine how this incident occurred.
Was the hull of the aircraft breached at all?
The aircraft did experience some damage to the fuselage.
Can you outline that?
That there are passengers that are here being interviewed by the FBI. Do you know how long they will be here on the premises before the passengers go to their destinations?
We believe it will be a relatively short period of time. Again, our law enforcement partners are conducting interviews. That's entirely standard in an incident of this nature. Our goal, as well as the airline's goal, is to get those passengers on their way. We know they've had a tough day, so that really is what Southwest is working on right now, is getting through that and getting those passengers on their way. Again, I want to say thank you to the other airlines here, and everybody's really banded together to take care of those folks while they're in transit here in Philadelphia.
What confirm that one of the windows was broken through?
I can say that the aircraft did experience some damage.
What part of the aircraft experienced the damage? Was it the beginning tail, the part?
The fuselage and parts of the wings.
Have you seen
Did
the
it break
pictures
through
on
the
social
window,
media we're talking about, Commissioner?
I have.
Talking about?
I have.
Is
So that is the aircraft that you see on the news and on social media is the aircraft that was involved in this incident.
Can you tell us what broke through that window, Commissioner? Did something?
No, we can't. It really is too early to tell. I mean, that is why the NTSB has a team on the way here. Aircraft, as you can imagine, are complex pieces of machinery. I have to say as well that the flight crew did an incredible job getting this aircraft here on the ground. Any other questions about how this incident occurred and the status of the aircraft really will have to wait for the NTSB.
Can you talk a little bit about the minor injuries? You were saying there were bumps and bruises.
I actually don't, besides minor, that's as much information as I have on the nature of those
Was the
injuries.
pilot a female, if you don't mind me asking?
I actually don't know the demographics of the crew.
We heard someone we didn't know if that was the co-pilot or pilot.
Commissioner, do you know if the passengers were working together inside the plane to maybe make it safe while they're trying to land?
It is our understanding, and again, it's still very early, it is our understanding that the passengers on board the aircraft, in addition to the flight crew and the cabin crew, did some pretty amazing things under very difficult circumstances. You'll hear more about that, I'm sure. That's still very new information. And that, again, that's not really our purview. That's something I'm sure will come out in the NTSB's briefings and report.
Is there any way we can hear more from the airline?
Like I said, the airline is firmly ensconced in our EOC, working with the other airlines and working with their headquarters to do everything they can right now. I think their focus is rightly on the passengers. So that's why they had us come down here and report on this incident. We did want to make sure that we got some information out. Hopefully the airline will be ready to talk a little bit more once we have that family reunification number in hand. But they're focused on that, and I think really focused on the passengers at this point.
Can you make the request for us to have some passengers do a state test before they depart?
That's not a request that we would make.
All the passengers remaining here want to go back to Dallas, or is something remaining possible?
You know, we're unaware of the flight arrangements for the passengers, and again, I think those are being made right now.
How are the passengers holding up, the ones that are?
Yeah, can you characterize their demeanor at all?
Well, I haven't seen the passengers who are, currently going through the rest of the process, but I can imagine it was a difficult flight.
Was there any professional medical viewpoints on board that flight that assisted with doctors, nurses, paramedics?
You know, it's still too soon to tell. We do understand. We have some preliminary information that there were some folks, potentially an off-duty firefighter, and maybe some other medical professionals who were on board. I'm glad you mentioned that as well. We also have our partners from the Red Cross, our Department of Behavioral Health and Intellectual Disability Services. They actually are on their way down here with some crisis counselors, again, to help the passengers and any of the responders who were involved in this event.
I walked in on the way. I'm sorry. Where are the passengers exactly right now?
The passengers are here in the airport, being taken care of.
148 souls on board. Do you know how many were children?
We don't know that. Right now, the information we have is 143 passengers and 5 crew.
Commissioner, you know where on a map this incident experience? We heard over Lancaster, Harrisburg area.
No, we don't. We actually do not have that information. Again, that would be another question for the NTSB or the airline.
Can you take us through the timeline? I mean, they took off. They experienced this, however many minutes in, and they landed. They were off the plane. I'd like to hear how this happened.
Well, I can't speak to the the timeline while they were en route or airborne. The timeline, of course, from the time they declared an emergency, they touched down here. The crew declared an emergency, brought the aircraft down. As far as we can tell, the safety systems on board the aircraft worked as designed for that type of a descent. The aircraft landed here. Our units were dispatched at 11:10. They were on the scene at 11:13. They very quickly applied foam and extinguishing agent to the aircraft and started to work on accessing the aircraft for rescue. And again, you can see from the photos exactly how that occurred. Our members went on board the aircraft and went into service. And again, our medics did what they do many times a day in treating the people on board that aircraft. And one of those folks was transported to the hospital in a very rapid manner. And again, we're not going to talk about outcomes right now. You know, we respond to incidents, minor incidents, in partnership with the airport and PPD here every day. Incidents like this, of course, are very rare. So I couldn't tell you the last time that we responded to an incident like this, but I think it's probably been years. Years.
Any information on the moment of that emergency call to how long it then took to meet the actual landing?
No, I don't know the time from when the flight crew declared an emergency until they touched down here at PHL.
Would you say it was because of quick actions by fellow passengers that everyone on board was on the plane when it landed?
You know, I don't know enough to answer that question. It certainly appears from the information we have available right now that the flight crew, the cabin crew, and the passengers all worked together to help bring this incident to the ground. And then our fire department, law enforcement, airport personnel responded and did what they do in a rapid and effective manner.
Can you say how many were transported to area hospitals, I think?
Just one.
Some passengers have reported on social media that there was a free fall at one point. Do you know anything about that?
Well, free fall, again, that's probably a good question for the NTSB, but certainly when you're at altitude and you bring the aircraft down in an incident like this, it happens in a fairly rapid manner.
At what altitude was the plane?
I don't have that information. That would be for another question for the NTSB.
Commissioner Teal, you mentioned that the skill of the pilots bringing in the aircraft. Were they struggling with an aircraft that had some type of explosive depressurization?
I don't think that's an accurate characterization necessarily, but again, I think that's also a question for the NTSB. Okay, thank you all, and we'll, our partners at OEM will let you know when we're going to have additional briefings and or the NTSB. As I said, they're scheduled to arrive here at around 4 p.m. today, subject to change, and we will convey, again, some of your questions to the airline for whenever they're ready to address those. Thank you.
Where's the aircraft right now?
The aircraft is in a parking area here on airport property.
4 p.m. or 6 p.m.? I'm sorry, can you clarify? You said that.
4 p.m. is when we believe, but again, we're not the NTSB, so I would,
That's fine. You
yeah,
said 6 p.m. earlier. I just wanted to
it's
clarify.
entirely possible I did.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Still a developing story. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you all. Thank you.